Hi, everybody. My name is Lindsay Kay, and I am the lead research for TBITracker, providing mobile strategies for traumatic brain injury. I want to thank everybody for taking the opportunity to come and listen to the presentation, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about the project. So, for those of you who aren't familiar with traumatic brain injury, also called TBI, traumatic brain injury is caused by a bump, blow, or jolt to the head, or a penetrating head injury that disrupts the normal function of the brain. So you've probably heard a lot in the recent past about head injuries in the NFL. So traumatic brain injuries really range from, a very mild form of concussion all the way to the penetrating head wound that you would more commonly associate with a traumatic brain injury. So traumatic brain injury is a really big, really expensive problem. So in terms of cost, it's about $60 billion per year. So these are costs incurred both during the injury and then after the injury for post-injury care, so caregivers, rehabilitation, and other support along those lines. And about 1.5 million individuals sustain a TBI each year. So again, that can range from a concussion all the way to a penetrating head wound. And about 5.3 million Americans are living with a long-term TBI disability. So we hear a lot about lung cancer, stroke, and heart attacks, but as you can see, incidences per year of TBI outnumber all three of those, and we're only beginning to hear, extensively about TBI and some of the repercussions of sustaining one. So what the TBITracker team is doing is we're designing and developing an open source iPad prototype application that will help patients with their perspective memory. So what perspective memory is, it's a form of memory that involves remembering to perform a planned action or intention at the appropriate time. So remembering to check burgers on the grill, for example, going to a doctor's appointment, calling your relative, really all those things that you and I do every single day. The reason we picked perspective memory is when we talked to our clinical subject matter experts and some patients about what their difficulties were and where they saw the gaps. Everybody mentioned that perspective memory and the whole idea of planning was very difficult. You may see that there are other kind of scheduling apps, but in the App Store and some other kind of apps in general, but those are definitely not designed for somebody with a brain injury who would have very different needs. So what we sought out to do was design and develop a scheduling and planning tool based on some of what patients do in therapy with their clinicians, and designed specifically for somebody with a brain injury. So we followed certain design guidelines with when we went for our human factors designer. So to give you a brief overview of what the app does, I'm going to take you through an example. So the first step the patient would do is think of a task that needs to be done. So we initially targeted this app at activities of daily living, so things like doing the laundry, things like cooking, that you do every day, and if you don't have brain injury, are quite simple to do. So let's use the example of doing laundry. The next step, as is done in some of the rehabilitation kind of therapy practices, you think of all the different sub-steps that you would need to undergo. So for laundry, you think, okay, well, I need to get my quarters. I'm ready for the machine. I need to get some detergent. I need to put all my clothes in the laundry bin and go downstairs. So what a patient would do is then kind of think about what all those steps are, and they have the ability to input them into the app. And they can do that in a number of ways. So because traumatic brain injuries aren't a general thing, so not everybody has the same type of disability, we wanted to make TBITracker really accessible to as many different kinds of people as we could. So there are 3 different input modalities. So you can take a picture of an object, that would remind you of what that step is, you can type in what that step is, or you can record your voice saying it. So we really wanted to do a patient recording his or her own voice, because then he or she is giving him or herself the guidance at performing this task. Next, you assign slices of time. So it helps. So for each step, you'll say, okay, well, that'll take me about 5 minutes. And this is similar to what is done in therapy. So one of the things that they'll do in therapy is say, well, how long should this take you? And the patient gives an answer. The therapist said, okay, so if you've taken 3 times that amount of time, that's when you know you've taken too long. So what the app does is incorporates this logic into the application itself by saying it'll take 5 minutes, and the patient will be able to monitor, all right, should I be done with this task by now? Next, all the patients we talked about living and dying by their calendars. So your calendar is very important to you, and kind of receiving those reminders is really integral to being able to do things on time. So we integrated TBITracker with the iCalendar, which we'll show you later. So once you've built up your task, you schedule it on your calendar like you would any other appointment, and then you receive, notifications like any other appointment you'd have. And finally, when a patient wants to kind of go through and do the task, they can choose to walk themselves through it. So we wanted to offer patients as much support as they would need. So because patients have different kinds of needs, we wanted to offer them the ability to walk themselves through the task. Or if they just need kind of a basic reminder, okay, yes, I got my quarters, I got all these things, and then they can kind of handle the rest on their own, we wanted to also offer them that opportunity. So by building this app prototype, we want to evaluate our research goals. So our 2 research goals are, can patients with prospective memory impairment more effectively accomplish at-home tasks using TBITracker? And how can mobile technology empower TBI patients? So some of the potential impacts that we see is that an app like TBITracker could help reduce the cost of rehabilitation and post-injury care because it's mobile technology. So one thing we noticed is that across the board, telehealth utilities are currently very sparse for TBI, and telehealth is something that's definitely getting a lot more attention because it helps increase the access to care for very specialized things such as TBI. And we really see the potential for TBITracker to become an aid in some of the telehealth efforts that are going on. Additionally, increasing the accessibility of rehabilitation services in general. So in therapy sessions, it's not something that you're at 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's definitely time between it. And just like homework, patients are sometimes given things to do between their sessions to sort of practice the skills that they've learned. And it's very important to kind of foster that carryover between sessions. And so we view TBITracker as something that could possibly be also used to foster that carryover. Additionally, it could increase access for patients in remote areas. We've heard a lot about veterans who are extremely rural, who live 3 hours from the VA, and it's very hard to drive with a traumatic brain injury, 3 hours to your appointment. So if they could have more access to some of the care more remotely, that could possibly help them. So empowering patients in their own care. So I think we've heard a lot about this, but really helping patients accomplish their daily at-home tasks more independently. So just the ability to feel like I can accomplish my tasks on my own. I don't need somebody with me 24/7 to help me do things that I could definitely do before injury. And additionally, if they have this increased ability to accomplish the ADLs, the activities of daily living, their caregivers can potentially focus on other activities to also help the patient, but aren't as focused on some of these basic things that now the patient could do on their own. Additionally, traumatic brain injury targeted utilities in the VA mobile health app suite, there really weren't any that we've seen. So by adding something like TBITracker to that, you could increase the visibility of the other really great mobile apps such as PTSD Coach, and you could increase the accessibility of a TBI targeted care tool to VA patients and care providers. We have a couple future plans. So what we're planning to do, so we just kind of put out our first release about a week ago. We're planning to work with patients and providers to refine the app prototype. So we're going to meet with patients and clinicians to get their feedback. Is the UI effective? Are they able to walk themselves through the app? Yes, we did use a lot of those design guidelines for disabilities, but are we implementing them correctly? Are they really doing what we were hoping? Additionally, we're planning to engage in a study with a clinical partner. Right now we're waiting on our internal IRB to approve it, but the goal is to evaluate the TBITracker research questions to see whether the patients are empowered and whether we are helping patients better accomplish their daily at-home tasks. And finally, we want to develop a way of sharing TBITracker usage data with the patient and providers. So within the population, there's a lot of sort of paranoia, are they talking about me? Are they not telling me something? So what we really want to emphasize is that any sort of data sharing dashboard type thing that we want to implement has to be consistent between the patient and the provider. So there has to be sort of one screen, and it has to make the patient feel positive reinforcement and feel like they're really accomplishing something, but it also has to provide the provider insight. So that's kind of our next more researchy task that we're planning to do. So now I want to give you a kind of brief demo of how TBITracker works. Get that full screen. Okay, so you are now seeing my iPad screen. All right, so this is the TBITracker dashboard. So you can see this is where all the patient would find all their tasks. They can make new tasks with the add button. So you can see that they have 3 right now. Let's kind of look at the laundry one. So this is an example of one that has been built entirely with images. So they took pictures around their house. So as you can see, there's a bunch of different steps, and they all have times. If we want to look at how to add a new step, very simply, you click Add. Let's say we want to type it. So I want to put laundry away. Okay, so now I can decide that that'll take me about 9 minutes. So then once you're done, you hit Done, and there you have another step added. So the patient goes through and just builds out their steps along this timeline in that manner. And from here, they have a couple different options. If they wanted to change the content of a step, they could click Edit. You can also walk yourself through the task like we talked about, or you can schedule the task. If at any point the patient is lost, they can click the question mark icon in the upper right, and then get insight on any page into what all the things that they can do are. So let's look at scheduling the task. So you're given a shot of your calendar and the ability to schedule. So in blue is the TBITracker task, and in purple are all of your other appointments on your calendar. So make sure that you don't schedule over anything else you have. So if I want to schedule the task for today at 1:49 p.m., I can add it to my calendar. I go back to the home screen, and the really cool thing is I can go to the calendar, click on the task, and it'll take me right back to where I was. So now I'm right back in the task, and I can just go to start going through it. So you can walk yourself through the task, you can pause, and the cool thing is in the background there's a logger that's taking account of what the patient is doing, not necessarily what the tasks are named or anything about what the actual tasks are. Just they've created this task, or they've moved steps around, or they've started a task or stopped a task, and we're hoping to use all that data on that dashboard to really kind of build up the content for it. Let's stop that task. So here's some examples of some of our other input modalities. So here is a task that's entirely words. So the tasks don't have to be entirely words, pictures, or voice tasks. They can be any combination of all of them.
Feed the dog.
Here's an example of a voice task. You can kind of
Return the dog food to the kitchen cabinet.
You can kind of just go through and listen to all the different steps. So that is TBITracker, and I would love to take anybody's questions. So just in case I didn't mention it, the app is open source. So really what our idea for transition is, we're hoping somebody will get really excited about it and use it in their clinical practice. So that would be very exciting to us. Also, if it could make it into the App Store. So MITRE doesn't build products, so we wouldn't be doing that. But if somebody was really excited and wanted to take it on, they definitely could. It's accessible on GitHub, so all the development is done for you, and it is now free for use by anybody.
If anyone has any questions at this time, they can type them into the chat function, and we'll take them in order. Or you are free to unmute using the *6 function and ask your question verbally.
So we don't know of anywhere that this is currently being used, but a couple different parties have expressed interest in, the idea of the app. And we're definitely looking for people to use it. So if you're interested, please reach out to me, and I'd be happy to talk to you about it. Thank you, everybody, so much for your time.
Yeah, let me just pipe in. This is Len Seligman. If anybody across VHA or other partners that you may have might be interested in testing this application, of course, Lindsay would absolutely love to hear from you. I think that there are a lot of potential applications among the veteran population. Also, we welcome suggestions about other areas of future research. So if you see, this, 60% meets your need, but, if there was a left turn at some particular place, then it would be really of value to my program. We love getting that kind of feedback as well. It really helps us keep our research as relevant as possible to our sponsor needs.
If anyone has any questions after the event, we encourage you to join our online community. It's called Handshake, and we can send you registration information by emailing us at seminnovation@mitre.org. Additionally, if there was one of your colleagues who couldn't attend today, but you think they might be interested in the content, please encourage them to email us and join Handshake. We'll be posting videos of today's presentation and other documentation and briefings related to these and other research projects. If someone has feedback, they are also welcome to email us at seminnovation@mitre.org. Anything that we can do to improve these to make them better for you, we would be happy to do. And lastly, we'll be sending out a brief survey to everyone after today's exchange, again for the purpose of collecting feedback and making these exchanges more valuable. Thank you.
Before Lindsay goes away, there was a question that was asked at the morning session that I thought was kind of an interesting question, which was, have you considered other populations, for example, Alzheimer's, dementia, where this may be relevant in addition to traumatic brain injury?
Okay, so we hadn't necessarily designed the app particularly for those, but we keep hearing kind of the Alzheimer's and the dementia, and we think it would be definitely a great application. I think definitely there are a lot of similarities in the perspective memory issues, and it's really relevant. So if anybody was interested in kind of applying to that, also please reach out to me.
So that sounds great. Thank you very, very much, Lindsay.